My biggest mistake was, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I came from the point and shoot era of cameras when I was growing up. So we had a Polaroid and we had 35 millimeter film cameras. Like I had a little Vivitar camera, I remember that, and maybe a Kodak camera or two back at that time. And you know, those were the kind you just point and shoot. And that was all I knew about photography. That was it. No one in my family liked photography, talked about photography. I didn't get any exposure to, no pun intended, any exposure to photography growing up. I wanted to start a garden blog in the late 2000s, and I wanted to do macro photography. So I bought a camera with an interchangeable lens, and I'm pretty sure it was the Canon Rebel XSI that I got. And when I look back in Capture One, I can see that I took a lot of photos with that camera. But when I was looking at the earlier ones, I noticed that how bad they were. They were just terrible. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So for me, my biggest mistake was not learning how any camera works before learning how my camera worked. There's a distinction there that's worth noting, is that the first part of that is understanding the foundations of photography, the basics of photography, and how a camera works. When you know that, well, then you can apply the how my camera works parts to that equation and get the result that you want. Well, I didn't do that. I was just out there with my camera taking pictures and scratching my head all the time, wondering why this isn't in focus or why only part of the B was in focus and the rest of it wasn't. And I was struggling with that. And right around that time, I had a subscription to lynda.com for work. I was doing a lot of coding and was watching a lot of tutorial videos. And I came across Ben Long as a photographer and an instructor that had some great courses on lynda.com. And I took those courses and I was just going through them. And I think the first one I probably watched was Foundations of Photography. Well, boy, did that open up the whole world for me. That just created a watershed moment where I was like, okay, I can really get creative now that I know how any camera works. I know about aperture, shutter speed, ISO, depth of field, and how to work with flash. He had a course on flash. He had a course on composition. He had a course on macro and landscapes. You could dive right in and learn all about it. For me, that was my biggest mistake earlier, and being really stuck, struggling with the disappointment when I would go back inside and put my SD card in the computer and look at the photos and go, oh man, what happened? This is not what I wanted, and learning about those things. I was always good about the lighting part. I had just a good sense of when there's good light and when there isn't, and how to use backlighting. It just was, I didn't understand how the camera worked. So I didn't know how depth of field and the distance from the subject relates to the aperture setting that you've got. Once I knew those little secrets, once I knew those things really started to change. That's when I dove right in and started doing macro photography. I was just going to town. I started to realize that I could make changes on here and open up my aperture, stop it down when I wanted to get more detail, and how to work with light for macro. That really helped me a lot. I'm just curious what your journey was, and if you could share it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. I know some of y'all are professional photographers, and this may be just totally way too basic of a video and you have no interest in watching it, and I totally get it. I'm recording this video for people like me back then, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that might be just using a smartphone today and really not understanding what an exposure triangle is, how it works, what depth of field is, because your phone pretty much does it all for you. You close in on something and you want to take a picture and it switches automatically to macro mode and you get a decent looking shot. But you don't understand how that shot could be taken with a camera and how you could replicate that. So I think while I came from point and shoot way before there were phones or anything else, I think the situation may still very well be the same, where you've got people who are using their phones for photography, and then when they do want to get a camera, they may not know how to use their camera, how it works, how any camera works, right? And then they'll struggle. So they may just have to put it in automatic mode. And again, that's fine for most pictures. It's only when you want to get creative and you want to take some liberties with how you're shooting that you start to struggle. If you've enjoyed this content, please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and hit that bell so you're notified when new episodes come out. And don't forget, print your work sometimes. It's really great to actually get a physical copy of the photos you're taking. That's all I wanted to share in this video this week. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. So, that's a great thing about Capture One and Lightroom too. So, or cut that part out. Don't even say that. I don't even know. I don't know. Okay, let's cut that. Hit the thumbs up button, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you don't consider subscribing. Wait. If you've enjoyed this content, please hit the like button, wait. What do you think? Huh? Yeah? Do you see yourself? You see yourself in the screen? Yeah. All right. Well, don't get all freaky about it. It's just it's good. It's good, Henry. Thinking about leaving? I know you usually do.